we're actually going to take you behind the scenes on how we're attacking one of our core processes. What we do to actually map this out initially, bring and gather the whole team together, and then convert this into the automations and the AI. So this is the first of a multi-part series, and the intention of this one is so that you can actually apply this work yourself, rather than having to feel like you need to jump straight ahead into where this AI automation exists within your digital transformation. First thing we're going to do is slow it down, right, and actually get to map out the process. And that sometimes is a daunting task. If you sit down and do it by yourself and you try and go straight into some sort of process mapping software, that's where I often think it goes wrong, because we miss out on vital components. And before you know it, it's too overwhelming and the whole thing doesn't get off the ground. So let's get started. First of all, I'll share a few screens and then I'm going to take you in behind the scenes here where we are in our strategy room in IT Park in Cebu. I'll show you exactly how we do it. So I want you to see the whole process work. Let's have a look at just a few slides to set the scene for today. So when we're looking at digital transformation, every time we come back together in our bi-weekly sessions, we'll be looking at these concepts of automate and innovate, boosting your customer experience, and ultimately leading your organisation to have competitive advantage. Now, when it comes to this case study, or this really build insight to how we build so that you can get the inspiration for yourself, in this first part one of the build out, we're focusing on time to value for our clients in our outsourcing business Go team. And I'll explain what we're looking to achieve there. Now, when it comes to this time to value, whenever we're designing something new, first thing we need to do is remember our process of discover, design, deploy, educate, execute, and evaluate. And depending on the size of the implementation you're doing, the speed at which you'll do this will vary. Now, the one that I'm sharing with you today is a larger one. And so we're looking more along the lines of the 4-week implementation. We think this one is probably going to be 5 weeks for us. We're currently in week 1, which is the discover phase. And we're also going to move into design this week. So depending on it, it's not always going to be exactly that week, but at least give yourself some time to do it. The design phase itself, we expect to be probably a couple of weeks here, and then deploy could be 1 to 2 weeks as well. The education piece, we're actually going to be building that along the way, so in parallel. And then as we go into execute, we'll then run the full 90-day program and execute all the way through to the end when we do the evaluation and deployment. So let's get into it. Now, of course, like Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. And if you know the 7 habits, that's actually habit 2, where he shares that anything that we create first starts with mental creation preceding the physical creation itself. And when we think about processes in our businesses, sometimes, quite often, they're undocumented, or if they are documented, we might find that people don't always follow all the steps in the process. Sometimes they miss items, sometimes new items get added in through innovation. Sometimes those don't get documented, and before you know it, we don't have a scalable process because people are not following it consistently. So that's where we really believe in the benefits of digitization, so it's digital transformation, so that you can get automated workflows in your organization that are assisted by AI to actually speed up the whole process. I still remember one of my sports coaches telling me, planning to fail, or failing to plan is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail. And no matter what your endeavour is, we need to have a very clear plan. And so we're going to create the goal now and map out the process. And I want to take you behind the scenes. We're going to switch cameras now. In fact, we'll open up the view of what it looks like where we are today. So we're in our strategic room, which is on level 14 in our office in IT Park. And here we've got the benefits of some large space to do our planning. Now, the modality that you choose for your planning is up to you. So it might be that you're choosing to do this on butcher's paper on the wall. It might be that you're doing this online in a tool like Miro or Figma, using the the big jam boards, that's great for it as well. We often find that when you're gathering people together to do this sort of design thinking process and mapping out all the ideas, that it's really beneficial to do it in physical work. Now, you might like to use things like post-it notes and pens. We've got the benefit of whiteboards here. But there's actually a whole convention behind us that we use to actually drive the process. So I'm going to switch cameras now. I'm going to get you behind the scenes via the iPhone here so we can zoom in. So Jace, I'll get you to switch me over. Fantastic. I have a couple of items here. And with this, we're going to take you as a close-up view right across the whole planning process so that you can see it yourself from start to finish. So let's get into this first part here and what our approach is. So the approach here, planning approach, first of all, is to set a measurable goal. I think that's really important. Whenever we're doing a digital transformation, make sure that we've got a measurable goal so at the end, when we do our evaluation, we'll understand what winning looks like. Now, in alignment to that is to set the quantifiable business impact, because sometimes your goal won't clearly display the quantifiable business impacts. We want to get that measurable as well. Very important for the evaluation phase and very important for understanding just how big an investment they are willing to make in your digital transformation. Next, I think is really important is to also explain the why, so that as you're bringing a team of people along the journey with this, it isn't just delivering process, it's actually understanding deeply why we're going to do it. That also connects to your quantifiable business impact as well. Then we need to define sections because we're going to do some brainstorming. Now, we've got our sections almost in these big panels. I'll explain those more in a sec. Then it's a brainstorming activity that's required. And this is the task breakdown looking at. Now, you can do this first by starting as the current tasks and then future state tasks as well. Definitely going to need the future state. Sometimes if we jump too far ahead, we can get a bit lost and overwhelmed. So it's often beneficial to start with the current state, future. It just really depends on the maturity of the team that's working on this. Then you're going to note down different systems that will be utilised, and then note down where you'll place AI agents and human in the loop. Now, as you brainstorm out, I'll also recommend a few things. So when you're brainstorming, we're going to be standing up is very powerful. Set some timers on these, so you're actually giving people a set amount of time to come up with the ideas. Otherwise, it can go on forever. And if you time bound it, you'll also see that you get the results a lot faster. You may also like, if you've got a lead that understands the whole process, to do the first draft and then bring the team in to add afterwards. That's also very useful. And what we've done here also is we've gone sort of left to right, because we often think that way, and we read that way, left to right, and then top to bottom in the brainstorm. So that when you've got these sections, you can then brainstorm out all the ideas from top to bottom. And the reason why we go with this approach is that if we were to jump straight to a process map, this one's so big, we'll get quite lost, and we'll be zooming in and zooming out on the software all the time, and it would be hard to get that big picture understanding of how it all works together. And when you start to get this left to right scenario going on with all these different sections and top to bottom brainstorming, you're then going to get to a point where it's like scratching your head and saying, how are we going to connect all these different ideas together? It's just so many steps in a process like this. How are we going to connect it together? How are we going to go from the ideas that are on the board to then process mapping it out? Well, that's where you need a naming convention or a numbering convention that will help you understand what the current task is, what was the previous task that it came from, and what is the next task we're going to. And so what we do is, with the defined sections, we're going to give each section a letter, like A, B, C, or D, and then each task will get a number. So we'll be able to know when we're on a current task, which we always put in blue to show it, that it's come from a previous task, where it came from, and then where it's going to. This is going to make the process mapping afterwards so fast, so simple. And it will allow you, still in this planning stage, to be able to walk through and just double check that everything logically works together. Now, a couple of other naming convention components that we have here. We've got a circle and a tick, which we use to say start process. And then if a particular process needs to end, show where it ends. And then at times you might have a new independent process. Like as you're doing your planning, you realise, now we actually have a whole other process that we need. So you might as well capture that and just note it in red so you come back and document it later. We found that very useful. We also, because wherever we're starting, these are all human tasks being done. But at some point in time, something's going to change into AI agents to execute those tasks. So we've got our little range from AI agent. So it's mentioned here, you just put AI agent for themselves. The other thing is that there will still, as much as we're going to automate, digitize, like probably 95% of this, maybe even more, there's still going to be some human in the loop moments. So we want to note those HIL, human in the loop moments. And then sometimes we find that in a process that's this large, we've got a specific concept of going from start to finish. But we might find that along the way, someone wants to come back and make a change within the process or interrupt it. And well, it's really around to making a change. And so we capture a trigger event if there's going to be a change along the way. And then finally, when you see purple writing, that's just some additional notes to help us either with our thinking or something that we need to come back to, especially planning of a process this large is going to go over a multi-day session. Okay, so some other tools that we've got here. So I've got my purple, blue, red, and black pens, all right? They're my faithful companions as I'm doing this planning out here. And let's start right from the beginning. So beginning with the end in mind. And just as we saw over there, planning approach, we need to start with set the measurable goal. For this particular goal, it's to deliver greater than 90% of new hires to exceed their OKRX scoreboard targets by the end of the first 5 days of work. So let me explain that a bit more, because it's kind of terminology that makes sense to us. Jason, I'm going to share my screen. And what we want to do, and you probably want this in your own organisation as well, is that by the end of day 5, I'm just going to share my screen, Jason, on the laptop. By the end of day 5 at work, we want every new hire to have their goals, their KPIs, their metrics really clear. Trying to do it here. I'm not sure if we're doing a screen share at the moment. And it's not coming up on the screen. And then, Jason, I wanted to share my laptop screen. We want to see scoreboards for team members with measurable goals that they can progress forward on a daily basis. Oh, fantastic. Thanks. I think we're doing the screen share. Yeah. Here it comes. Great. So in this example here, I've got someone in accounts receivable. Their goal is to reduce outstanding balances to 50 or less by December. And so they're going to need to get this goal in place and deliver on it. And then after that, they've got some behavioural metrics like negotiate 20 payment extensions with customers per day, review 5 payment processes using approved procedure per week, and I think I might have doubled that one up there. But essentially, get the different goals and metrics in place with scoreboards. Now, generally, in most organisations, getting KPIs in place is not easy. Getting scoreboards up gets a lot harder again. And when it comes to then getting people to execute on those, it gets even harder. Again, it's not a common thing people to have high quality metrics in business scores. Definitely not by the end of day 5. Now, we've typically seen that this process might take up to about 3 to 4 weeks to really bed down if you're doing it manually. We're doing our digital now, and we've been, I've got a decade of experience in helping organisations to do this. When you do it at scale on a weekly basis, it becomes a bit trickier as well. So this process here is the way to digitise it so you get team members up, running, executing, and exceeding their targets in their first week, 5 days. So it's quite phenomenal. Now, from an impact perspective, as we start to set this business case, Jason, we're going to switch back to the iPhone camera now. And so we look at the business impact. So, well, when we can get team members up and running like this, in the Go Team business, there's a process cost saving because all the steps that we see along here, humans are doing, and that's not all of them, by the way. We haven't finished the plan yet. There's also process execution error handling reduction. So a simple thing might be for us that the client doesn't know what's up team member. So that can take a little bit longer. They'll be just setting up the scoreboard, come back. Also, post-week 1 coaching production team members. So having given coaching, and so we can allocate actual dollar amounts to these. I won't be allocating these on a video. We're doing that internally. And so then whether that's human hours of time is the most common one there, plus opportunity cost. Then we also see that when you have people executing at a high quality rate and they're winning from day 1 and winning at day 5, what we see is a positive impact on employee retention at the 6-month mark. And then another huge one for us is about radiating sales at the 7-day mark. So when we've got team members are winning, getting results for their clients, naturally people want to expand their teams. Now, why do we do all this? Well, it helps us to deliver on our purpose, to scale and exceed, and naturally have this business impact. So that's our setting the measurable goal, that's quantifying business impact, and also explaining why. Now, the next thing is to define your sections. Now, you might have a goal. This one, for us, is all about time to value for the client and team member. But in many organisations, when you have those time to value, you might find that the sections that you're looking at are departments that you're moving across, that you might have sort of like a customer journey map where the departments are laid out. In our scenario, what we've got is coming from our website to setting up users in our Multiply Tech app to what we call a strategic workforce plan, where we can start to plan out different roles and goals for team members that will go offshore. There's also quarterly business review, our Go Team People application where our clients can see their team members. We have our applicant tracking system, our AI interview system, our OKR system, naturally. Also, a whole focus and execution system. We haven't made other steps in that yet. We've got our Multiply Workflows, which is our workflow automation tool, our Source Wiki for documentation, our heads-up display so people can get highly engaged, our Raya AI agent platform. And then we've got a physical training that happens both online and in person. So that's happening in our Better Together studio as well as facilitated on Zoom. Now, I won't take you through every single step because it'll get a bit boring for you on what we're doing here. But we will certainly be publishing the entire process map and all the details so you get to see it. What I want to do, though, is point out just a few of the steps so you can see the connections between them. So we started here with coming from our website where we'll be setting up a library of inspiration of goals and tasks. So essentially, template library of all the positions that are available to consider offshore with the roles and goals, position descriptions, but in particular, the objectives, key results, and X-factors, the metrics that we want to see people with. So essentially, we start the process here. Actually, I should have a little tick there to show the start of the process. Let me fix that one as we go. Okay, so there's two ways this process can start. And let's say it comes from the website, someone sees the library of inspiration, or the second one is that there's a request for a discovery call, where they watch an overview video and select one or more of the roles. So what we've got at the top here, this section, we call it section A. This one over here is section B, and section C, and so now during the planning, what I realised after I laid out sections was, I actually have another section that should have gone between A and B. So what I did there is made this section AA. Rather than coming in all out, it made sense to keep these together. And also found that in this one here, sort of bits of the same software, went to section BB and section triple as well. And that just saves, just in case you get the same. And so we note here that this is the current task, so A1, and this current task here, A2. And after that, I want to know which task will I go to next. Now, you note that I've got B1 and AA1, because sometimes the tasks will, the next steps will split out into branches. There's things that need to happen. And so for B1, it takes us over to creating the position in our strategic workforce plan. So when a client comes to work with your team, they select a role, and then that role is going to be set up in the strategic workforce plan. The AI will brainstorm out OKRs, our agent suggestions of workflow, template selections, automation speeds, basically give all these great ideas to help us win and exceed work. Also note that it says we also need to go to AA1. So we actually need to provision a setup of that client in our multiply tech app. So that's a step that we need to do to ensure this gets set up. And then from B1, we go to B2. And B2 is all about ordering that position. So the client says, yes, we'd like to proceed. And at that point in time, we're actually going to trigger off a whole range of activities here. So in B2, we then we go to C1, which is to set up a job order in our applicant tracking system. And then from there, we've also got the D1, which takes us to multiply interviews and setting up the job posting within our interview platform. So once again, those came from D1, we're on D1, we're going to go to D2, which is to send a summary notification in Teams and Slack. I'll come back to that one. So you're going to get the feel for it. We're going to map our way through all these different steps, and it actually culminates when there's a 5-day training session, both live and online, for the team members. Now, we've got to do things like schedule that in calendars. And along the way, there's multiple, naturally, it's lots and lots of steps. So rather than take it down into the rabbit hole of all those steps, I'll point out the next part, which is once you've brainstormed out these tasks and you've noted the systems, got those connection points, it's then time to look at things like where are the agents going. So we get a list of these tags, the agents ready to go. So we can start thinking about, right, hey, here's an example where an AI agent could be doing that step. So there'll be sections that are simply automation, pushing data through, and there'll be other sections where it's actually an agent that's going to be doing the work in those steps along the way. And so as you're planning this out, going back and reviewing these items, where could that go? Oh, that could go other agents here, and you get about another one. It's going to be here. And you're basically building out that plan. Now, once you've got that plan in place, the next step is to go from this view. Jason, we go back to my laptop now. we're going to go from from our big world, and we're going to bring this back in, and we're going to start digitization process. So we're still in the planning of this design phase, and we need to now capture it in the system so that we can, in fact, make sure that we can digitize it. So we're sort of discovering and now design, and in the design we want to get it into a process map. So this is Do This Too. This is our workflow tool. And so here is where, in this particular 5-day challenge in this digital transformation, we start to look at the different steps that we're going up on the wall, and we're going to place it into a process map. And the reason why we take it into the process map, and you could be doing the process map, first of all, in something like Lucidchart if you want to, or any other sort of process mapping tool. For us, we process map within our own system here because it will then convert into a automated workflow. So the tool is both there for just process mapping in general, but also so we can convert it to a workflow. Now, with those workflows, and we've also got automation as well, so we've got both in our agent platform as well as here, we then can break down any of these items into further tasks as well. And in the next session, we're going to take you through the full detail of how we've done that so you can see it and get further inspiration. And then we'll also be sharing how we look at bringing in AI agents at each of the steps along the way. And what we'll do is we'll share sections of each of these, and then we'll take you through in this series all the way through into seeing the whole process work from start to finish. So get inspired, think about a process in your organisation now, and do the first stage. It doesn't have to be as big a detail as ours. Naturally, we're going to get into some crazy detail in our type of businesses. But start with something simple first within your organisation. Maybe it's a sales process, marketing process, or a customer, a portion of the customer journey. I think, if you've got anywhere where you're onboarding a customer, it's a great place to start so that you can get a magical and consistent experience for them every step of the way. Keep it simple to begin with and build on it. We certainly recommend if you can get some wall space so you can put it up like we have, and then it can sit there because you probably want to come back to it after you sleep on it once or twice. There's something powerful about being able to get that really big vision of everything up on the wall and get it from start to finish so that you can really inspire and see how it all comes together from real life into your digital transformation. All right, team, that takes us to time for today. Thank you for joining this session. If you're joining online or you're watching this on YouTube afterwards, we'll be adding in some resources from today. So we'll be getting some documentation and adding that to YouTube channel as well. Thanks, everybody. Great to have you here. We'll see you next in 2 weeks' time as we're running the session now bi-weekly. We'll take you into the next phase, digital transformation. My name's Matt Kesby. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.